For those with good taste.
What is up, tasties and tastettes? Welcome back to a movie review. I'm Lenny, Dante, D33 Ray, all in the building. This week we're talking Folie, Don't Go See This, The Joker 2.
You can't say that. People love this movie.
They've gone out to see it in droves.
If you guys like movies with no payoff whatsoever, check this one out.
We'll get there. There's a payoff. But as always, we're going to kick it off with some facts, some details, some trivia on the movie. I wanted to walk you through a graphic that I found on X, not the videos, but the website where they just post shit. It's coming from Screen Rant, and I have 14 details that led to the disaster that is the Joker 2. That's what the graphic says. It's funny.
Is one of the details the unnecessary need to increase the budget?
Yeah, of course, yeah. Here we go. So number one, apparently the idea for this came to Joaquin Phoenix in a dream. They didn't go further into that.
He dreamt of the Joker being a musical.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you guys see? So there's a clip circulating from when they did the premiere or something, and a lip. You know how they have those people on TikTok, Dave, that do the lip reading.
Yeah.
A lip reading expert will tell you what they're saying, and it's him and Gaga right after the movie ends, and it's getting a standing ovation, and he basically just leans over to her and he's like, "That was really bad." And she's like, no, it was great. And he's like, no, that was bad.
Was it the John Boy cut?
Yeah. Yes. So number two, they contemplated putting this on for a Broadway show before committing to making it a movie. Now, Dave, you're considering going to Broadway, correct?
Yeah.
Would you have seen this on Broadway?
Maybe. If it had the same cast of Gaga and Joaquin Phoenix, then yeah.
I think this arguably plays better as a Broadway performance. This feels like it's a Broadway movie, kind of, right? Okay, number three. Todd Phillips had free reign from Warner Brothers, wanting him to do his quote unquote do his thing, and the film had no test screenings.
I feel like everything I read recently, he didn't want to do this at all.
I think when you get thrown a $200 million budget and get told you can do whatever the fuck you want with it and we won't even police it, probably convinced him. But that's the big controversy coming out of this, or one of the big ones, is the lack of test screenings. Is that an ego thing, do you think?
I mean, I don't actually know enough about movie production to know so is the point of test screenings to make sure everybody's on the same page, or
you can do reshoots based on that. It's basically a way to get real-time feedback before your movie comes out on what people liked and didn't like and make changes based on it.
Okay.
Get some fresh eyes on some problems that maybe you yourself were blinded to and you didn't see.
Yeah, maybe this movie could be shaved down 15 minutes. Maybe it leans too much into comedy or this, that, or the other. They could have said, hey, there's one too many songs in this movie. There's maybe 5 too many songs in this movie. There's maybe 10 too many songs in this movie.
We maybe didn't need any songs in this movie.
Yeah. There just could have been it gives you a pulse for where your movie's at. And at that point, if you don't want to make changes, by all means, don't make the changes. But it was egregious to a point, right? How much, there's just a lot of opportunities here. And it's crazy to not get any feedback,
Yeah.
Next up, Lady Gaga signed on before the script was even finished. Do you think she regrets that?
Lady Gaga.
I mean,
no. She got paid for it.
Yeah, actually, I have her budget, what she got paid, coming up in a second. So the new DC boss, James Gunn, had zero involvement. He gave notes to Todd Phillips, but Todd Phillips did not use them. Sounded more and more like a ego play to me.
Yeah, like, oh, I could do whatever the fuck I want here.
Like, hey, I smashed it out of the park with the first one, so I can do no wrong. Like I'm Joker God, and I like don't need to hear it from you, Mr. James Gunn. I also don't really know. Like, I understand, like he's he's the new DC boss, but like this isn't part of his universe, right? So like, why would he have had say to begin with?
No, he wouldn't have. So I think if he gave him notes just to give him notes, then
Yeah, like I
that's
think
all you can do.
respectfully, as like a movie maker, you should. It's okay to give the notes, but it's weird to add in the like as DC's boss. It's like, well, this is completely separate from his like world that he's creating. So like, you're not going to tell me what to do or how it affects your shit, you know? But speaking of the budget and how much people got paid, so we already talked about it. It was a $200 million budget. We talked at length about that. You know, throughout the year when that came out, I said it was a red flag to me because there's just no reason why this movie would cost that much money. And retrospectively, having seen it now, I think we can all agree. I don't know where a majority of that money went to. Like, there's nothing particularly visually astounding. Like, there's some interesting and creative choices during the musical numbers, I guess, but nothing that would say to me it needs to cost this much money, to where that makes a lot of sense. The only other thing I can think is like, do you think licensing those songs like inflated the budget?
What licensed songs do they have aside from like When the Saints Go Marching In?
And What the World Needs Now, right?
Okay.
Is Love Sweet Love. I can't remember, there's so many, like, but I feel like there was some like songs that are notable songs in there.
There were a couple
Hmm.
notable songs, but I don't think I I honestly have no recollection of what songs they were because they just played very
Yeah.
little to the movie.
So I can
Yeah.
tell you where at least $32 million of the budget went to.
Gaga's
Uh,
verse.
So 20 million of it went to Joaquin Phoenix. 12 million went to Lady Gaga.
Okay.
Good little payday for them.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Gaga just like, I don't need to do music anymore. I'll just say I'll take 12 mil a pop to sing in movies instead. And I don't have to like I have to sing maybe just as much as I would in one tour date, like tour date that I do. And the songs are like extremely simple.
Yeah.
So
To be fair, I don't think she was bad as an actress.
no, I if we want to talk about her for a second, for sure. Like, I of all the gripes I think you can have with this movie, I don't think there's any real gripes to be had with Joaquin Phoenix or Lady Gaga. I think they earned their money for what they were
100%.
given.
Yeah.
I think she's shown in her few acting opportunities now to be a very talented performer, which is crazy because I don't know her acting history at this point. Like, I don't know if she had been going to classes for a long time prior to getting like the Star is Born role or anything, but she seems to have acclimated to this like very, very quickly. And she's playing kind of an iconic character. And not that I think she played it in the way that you would play like a traditional Harley Quinn, but I think that it worked very well for the movie.
For the tone that the movie was setting, like it plays well in that universe. And I think she did really well with at least the direction they wanted to go with this movie. Like that's the stuff we can't fault her for.
Yeah, I think I think when we get into the like more into the actual review, I'll talk about it. I think they like her character maybe has some of the more interesting aspects of this movie. So the musical aspect, as we talked about, it was largely downplayed in marketing, with director Todd Phillips at first insisting that it wasn't one.
Maybe because he knew it shouldn't have been.
Well, that's to me like he watched the final cut and was like, maybe I should have cut a couple of these out.
Yeah.
So maybe if I just don't tell people that it's a musical, they won't realize.
No, I think they'll notice.
See, I don't like I do I guess think that there was too many songs, but I also through watching it like I wouldn't say it was a musical.
It was a musical in the way they broke out into song. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like it was a natural stage always for like someone to be singing, and that's where I say it's definitely a musical.
Well, I think that the difficult thing is like real musicals, like the music enhances the film and like
So
drives some of the plot for you. Whereas, like, I think that a lot of the music in the musical numbers in this is just used for like visual aesthetic and like stuff like
honestly,
that.
I think it does kind of drive what they wanted to do with the film, right? Like the entire movie has a very like somber and awkward tone to it that I think the musical aspect does amplify. It's just not something we liked.
Do you don't think that like uh, I don't know, I guess I don't really think of too many songs in the movie. And here's I think part of the difficulty. A really good musical I think has standout musical numbers. Like
Yeah.
has certain songs within it that like will stick in your head or you'll be like that was just a phenomenal song, right? Like go back all the way to when we were kids and saw like Aladdin or some shit,
No,
you know?
that's fair. And like I can't even think of a song that they sang in this, but like, the karaoke scene in Fall Guys still sticks out in my head.
Yeah, yeah. Like I just think that like the problem with this is there's too many, right? So there's just so much of it that at some point it's just like you're exhausted from the amount of like songs. And then they all kind of have the same tone to them. Like there's not like a happy and uplifting one and then there's a sad one and then there's kind of a comical one. Like there's just not this like shift in tonality to them. They're all kind of like the same tone in every single one, and that's why even more so they all just kind of run together in one at some point. And you're like you get through a scene and you're like, "Oh, another obligatory musical cut real quick that we have to sit through for another 4 minutes," you know?
And
Uh,
the performances within the songs, I don't think were anything close to stellar. Like, I don't think they none. Yeah, like you said, the tone of it, like Lady Gaga never had any like range really within any of her
Yes.
performances. I feel like Joaquin Phoenix's addition to obviously all the songs was like borderline poor. Like I just don't think he performed very well with some of the songs. Every now and then, like there would be like one or two notes that he would hit pretty well in a song, but then go right back to like just not sounding good at all.
Yeah, you think about like going back to Gaga not having a ton of acting performances, but you look at what they did with A Star Is Born and the fact that she went on tour essentially just off of like a song from that movie. Like she was on award show after award show, her and Bradley Cooper both off of that song in that movie, just like being so huge and like just like a really good actual song. And there's nothing that you came away. You wasted the aspect of like her acting performance itself was very good. And this is more of a shot at Todd Phillips than it is her. But you have a performer of her caliber who has real singing ability. And you never asked her to use, to Dave's point, and like to my point with the tone aspect, it's all just very monotone the whole movie through. Like you just never felt this time where you were drawn in by the music. You understand that it's there, and I'm saying it's terrible, but it just never elevated any of the material that you were getting. And I think that that's kind of the issue that I have with it. So next up, Christopher Nolan. He reportedly changed the ending of the first movie because it ended with Phoenix carving the smile into his face. Um, and there was no resistance to the sequel after Nolan left WB. So essentially, he was involved in the first movie, gave them tips. Like Todd Phillips took them and helped improve the movie. But since he left WB, there was nobody there, since he wasn't listening to James Gunn, it seems, or doing test screenings that gave him any insight on like those changes. And I think maybe that goes back to the ego thing where he respected with what Nolan had done with Batman and obviously what he did with the Joker in his own movies, that he was willing to take more of the feedback than he is from other people.
hmm. That's definitely a scene I was waiting for too. I was wondering if he was gonna carve the smile into his face, but that
Well,
never happened.
we'll get into it. Don't let me forget this. There is somebody does get it in the
Yeah,
movie. Yeah.
yeah.
Um Todd Phillips did this entire movie, or was secluded. Actually, not the entire movie. Sorry, Todd Phillips was secluded on a ranch during opening weekend.
Why?
To shelter himself from all the fucking
I don't know.
All
It
the
wasn't
shit
that
burning
bad.
he was
down
gonna
around
get,
him.
yeah.
Yeah, from the shit burning down around him, dude. He just like he went to Kanye's ranch in Wyoming and just hid. Furthermore, like, who the fuck is Todd Phillips to like have any type of an ego to say like you can't really tell me what to do? The man hits it out of the park on The Hangover and Joker 1, right? Like kills them. But then is there anything else that he's done that's like super well regarded? You know, he's already shown he's not very good at sequels. Did he do that movie Due Date? Was that him, Robert Downey Jr. and Galifianakis?
They produced it, yeah.
Yeah. Fine movie, but like nothing incredible. I just don't know what I can't think of what else Todd Phillips done that I would think that you should have any. In the past 20 years, you've had 2 movies that have like crushed. I think you should probably listen to some people, dude.
Yeah.
Old School, Road Trip.
I love both of them. Old School's fantastic. I won't lock that. Road Trip is like a culty type classic movie. I think not like super popular.
War Dogs.
Yikes.
Starsky and Hutch remake.
These 2 Joker movies are his first directing movies. His only directing movies since War Dogs. And the part 2 and part 3 of The Hangover. He's done a lot of producing roles. Actually, no, not that many.
No.
Oh,
16 directing roles versus 19 producing roles.
He was a producer on A Star Is Born as well.
Huh.
Maybe that's where he identified Gaga.
Yeah, he found her.
Yeah. He uncovered a hidden gem. So the film has been panned by fans and critics. It's currently holding a 33% critic score and a 31% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. It's nice to see people coming together on something.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah. It's really nice to see everybody aligned finally. Like normally you'd be like, this would be like an 80% audience score and like a 30% Rotten Tomatoes. It's nice to see everybody be like, you know what? That was just bad.
Yeah.
But they tried. So gold stars all around. To boot, the cinema score was a D-, the lowest ever for a comic book film.
Damn.
I don't know that I've seen any movies get that low of a cinema score. Like, I think when you see something pop up with a C, that's like a bad score for a cinema score. To get a D-, dude, like you didn't pass high school, bitch. That's really bad.
Damn.
That
would be an F you're thinking of, but yeah.
No, I don't think D- is pass either.
It's at a
really?
D now on cinema score.
Is it?
Yeah.
So somebody's inflating the numbers. Todd Phillips went and bought a couple tickets.
I mean, it's still sitting below Megalopolis though at a D+.
Yeah, we'll get there
with
rankings, dude. So domestically, the movie opened with 37.8 million. This is lower than comic book films like Morbius and the Marvels.
Yikes.
Well, dude, like, I know it's technically a character based on a comic book, but like, dude, this isn't a comic book movie.
Yeah. But there's a DC logo at the beginning of it, right? Is there? I feel like there was.
I got there a little late, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I understand what you're saying, Dave, and I think you're right. But like to be in the same sentence as Morbius on anything is pretty tough. Like, because I don't know if we remember when that movie came out. That's like it was considered one of the worst films that like ever be made. So says a lot. It needs to make $450 million globally to just break even.
Ooh.
It says the studio may lose 150 million.
Oh, it's going to lose. It's not more. Making 300,
yeah.
Dude.
Yeah.
Interesting fact on top of this, Warner Brothers Discovery is already $40 billion in debt.
Yep.
This is a bad decision if you're already losing money.
Like, they'd be lucky to sniff over 100 mil after its theatrical release is done.
like put it into perspective. Like this man did a movie that made $1 billion, and this is what he's come out with now. Like that's insane. And that's where I almost can't knock Warner Brothers to be like, hey, if we have one sure thing this year that we can invest a ton of money into, it's the movie franchise that made us $1 billion the last time it came out, and they just invested in the wrong guy's vision, right? Like, because then he took that huge investment that they gave him and he just shit all over it, basically, at least in the eyes of fans, and is
He's
just
not gonna work in this town again.
sadly he will, Dante. Like that's it should be that way. Like, Dave, we just talked about like Robert Saleh getting fired 4 games into the season. It's like in Hollywood though, he'll get another job, dude. And to be honest, what'll happen is he'll probably have an original idea or a movie that'll do great, and somebody will throw money at him again for a sequel, thinking they'll make money off of him, and he'll botch it all over again.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
maybe he'll slide back into comedy where he's obviously made some better choices.
Yeah, but I mean, the Hangover 2 is pretty heavily knocked for not being good, and I don't hate The Hangover 2, I think, as much as a lot of people do, but it is essentially just a carbon copy of the first movie, and I think that that's most people's gripe with it. And then when he tried to do something different with the third one, it failed even furthermore. So, that's kind of that's all that I have though for some news and trivia on the movie. So let's get into the actual review, I suppose. Let's just rock spoilers. So 3, 2, 1, spoiler. So Dave, how far into the movie did you get there?
Oh, well, just like after the credits, so like the cartoon was just starting.
The cartoon makes you feel like you're walking into maybe a good movie, huh?
Yeah, it was very I don't know, like early 90s vibes with
it was fun.
Yeah.
No, I'm not
It
like
had,
saying
like,
it was
that
amazing.
UV animation style, which was fun.
And so you pick up like pretty shortly after the first movie with Arthur Fleck in jail. And he's kind of like he's famous at this point, right? Like everybody knows him because he went on live TV and killed a man.
Yeah.
And it's like made him into, it's not really a martyr, right? Like, but like an icon for people who are down and out and, the like less fortunate, I suppose.
No.
Which it's a little scary to see, and I think it mirrors real life in some ways, where it's like this. There's a whole half of the world that's like, how are you guys like championing this person? Like they're a hero and a good person, and they're like, are we crazy? Like what's wrong with us? And on their side, they're like, how do you not see how he's actually like a good guy and like he's the hero to this story, which I thought was interesting in a way. And then his character, like, I like as the movie unfolds, you can see a distinct line between when he stops taking the medication and like because he's kind of grounded himself like while he's in prison and taking the pills and like he's a little bit more normalized. He's not falling back into the dual personality thing, and I like that you slowly start to see that unravel. I thought that was kind of a positive to the movie.
I think there were a few positives to pick up from the movie. It's just, I think holistically, it didn't tell a story that anybody gave a shit about.
Yeah, I think there's bits and pieces in it that are fine. And I hate to keep harping on it. I just think that it was like hard at some points to be super interested when like it would just get broken up by like a musical number that it just didn't most of the time didn't interest me that much. And like they almost felt like they dragged on too long at some points. And so you'd get like this great scene, even the scene you get in the trailer when he first like kind of meets Harley, and like you have this awesome scene of them talking outside of the classroom, and I thought the chemistry between them was there. and it felt really solid. And then you just go into like a musical number, and you're like, God, dude, like you just kind of put a stop on the
Same
momentum.
Andreas game where it's like, oh shit, here we go again.
Yeah, yeah, it almost just stops the momentum, like when a lot of the songs come through in this movie.
Yeah, no, I feel
And I
you.
think that made it difficult to a point. I will say this though, what I did enjoy the most out of this movie was the courtroom scenes.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
I thought that those were the strongest points. And to boot, I thought the best musical number in this movie was in the courtroom.
I forget them doing a
It's
musical
when he
number
starts beating
for
the shit out of everybody in the court, like he like bashes the judge's head in with a gavel and like all of that stuff. He shoots the jurors, right? Or who does he shoot? Nobody remembers.
I
I
took
don't
a
remember
quick
him
bathroom
shooting,
break
but
as
I
that
do
one was
remember
going
him
on.
bashing the
Really?
judge's
So
head.
I thought of all the music in this movie, it was the most interesting use of the musical scene. But it was also like when we talk about the tonality and everything feeling the same, it was the first one where it felt like it was a little bit more of like an upswing in tempo for what you were getting. Maybe the only other ones is like when they were doing kind of the mock like late night show musical.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that mock late night show musical was the first, or I feel like it was the best ish portrayal of Lady Gaga's voice
Yeah.
in really any of them. I feel like it was kind of the only one that she actually participated in. But then it kind of got cut short by just the theming of like he felt betrayed in that moment from her, and then they kind of just cut that song short.
And I thought that so that's what made her character, I think, maybe the most interesting in the movie is the manipulation aspect of it. Because I like as an audience member that when you get that chemistry of them first meeting and her like idolizing him to a point, and like you're left to believe what she's saying is true. And I liked as an audience member, like watching that kind of unravel, and you realize that she's just manipulating him to a point. And then even not just manipulating him, like it's not so much that like I think through the first movie, and they articulate this through the court scenes, that like he fantasizes about like the girl who lived in the apartment complex with him, and like builds this idea in his head about what they are. And to a point in this movie, it's not more, because he definitely fantasizes about her, but like Lady Gaga has like fantasized and romanticize this Joker character into who she's in love with. And I liked that like she's doing all the real manipulation aspects to turn him into what she wants to be in love with. Like I thought that that was a really interesting like take on the character, because so much of what at least I know is not being super book nerdy and like being more inspired by like the movie interpretations. Like she's generally the one manipulated and abused by the Joker. It's not usually that role reversal aspect.
Yeah.
I thought that was a fun twist to the whole thing. And like as you progress through the movie, and I don't know if we want to jump all the way here, but like what did you guys think of him kind of turning back from the Joker?
Uh, that actually kind of pissed me off because, to be honest, like, you know, my gripe with the first movie was like, all right, I'm just watching him be a sad sack, and you know, sure, he like kills the dude on TV or whatever, but like he never really became the Joker yet. So that's what I was expecting this movie to be, like him fully becoming the Joker and like terrorizing Gotham, and all of a sudden he just flips back and he's like, yeah, no, the Joker's not real.
I should have asked you this off the beginning, Dante, but you for the first time saw Joker 1 before you went
Yeah,
and saw this.
yeah, like 2 days before.
You know, I've been pretty vocal about my disdain, and you've already kind of told me you didn't completely agree with me. I'd like to hear a little bit about that, and then like kind of what your takeaways and expectations were now that you had seen it going into this movie.
So where I would say I didn't agree with you is like you're just talking about like, oh, this is like horrible, you shouldn't watch it, like it's the worst movie ever. And I don't fully agree with that.
I was talking a lot about the way that movie made me feel, though. Like it is
Okay.
just dark, depressing, and like there's no character in that movie that's redeemable, and that's by design, and I understand that. I just didn't get personal enjoyment out of that.
Then I mean in that sense I think we're kind of on the same level. Um again, I mean, there's a lot of things the movie did really well, and I think a lot of that really comes down to Joaquin Phoenix and really playing the character very well. There were a lot of great performances, but at the end of the day, the story just didn't give me what I wanted out of it. Like at the end of the day, like you're calling this the Joker. I'm here to see the Joker become the Joker. If you're gonna make it an origin story, fine, but give me that payoff at the end. And now we've gone through 2 whole movies, and I still haven't got that.
Yeah, I think it's kind of what Dave said, where it's like it's only it's only a comic book movie because it's titled The Joker, but it's like in all actuality, this character, aside from having other characters in the movie that are by name what we know from the WB, like or like from the Warner Brothers and like DC universes, they aren't the actual characters so much that we know from those comic books, you know.
Right.
I think that it's just one of those things for me with that first one and into this one, I suppose, where this one has a little bit more of like, I guess you could call Harvey Dent the good guy aspect of this movie to a point. Um, but yeah, the first one, I'm sure in a lot of people's eyes, it's really good that it breaks away from traditional storytelling of having like a hero and a villain and like an archetype that you can get behind while also having somebody that you want to see lose or like get its comeuppance. The first one just doesn't have any characters that you are inspired by or you want to see win. Like, I don't think like, I think they tried their best in a way for you to be sympathetic um, to, to Flex like character because he was treated like shit and like bullied and that does suck, but he's not likable, so you don't feel good when he like kills people in the subway or anything. Like you don't feel like it's like vindicated so much because he's also a bad person, you know.
Yeah, I think the lens they were trying to tell it through though is like he's not a bad person yet.
Yeah, yeah. And so I guess that gets back to the courtroom scene for you where it's like he's not a bad person yet, and you start to see him go down this like path of finally embracing being the character, and like Lady Gaga's character, like Harley Quinn, has gotten into his ear to get him to be the character that you've been waiting for him to be. And then very quickly, like abruptly, they just kind of pull the rug out of it. Well, and like I understand it, it's like you got the he he had that whole prison scene happen to him and it kind of like broke him and made him go back to to Fleck, not the Joker, right?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, sure, I get it, but at the same time, that's not what I wanted. You know what I mean?
And like why did that do that to him? Because like isn't that a lot of the same stuff in the first movie that caused him to become this is now the stuff that's causing him to go back the other direction?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, I felt like this movie just ultimately had no payoff because you go through the whole movie, man, and it's the entire movie is Arthur Fleck, and you're getting little to no Joker until he basically dons the mask in the courtroom, puts on an accent, and kind of just is confident, like all of a sudden.
The accent was fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like what was missing from this movie was the motivation for the Joker to exist, which was the fact like when he was pushed and backed into a corner and bullied over and over and over to the point he needed to stand up for himself, and that's when the Joker came out on the train scene and on the Murray show and like and in his apartment where he ended up like killing everybody. He was just pushed way too far, and that necessarily never happened in this movie whatsoever. And like that little scene that you get of the Joker is just immediately vanished as soon like as he gets the shit kicked out of him in the prison.
I honestly think it would have made more sense to not have the prison assault be the thing that brought him back to Earth because that's so much that motivated him in the first movie. And I think when like the little person does his testimony, that should have been the turning point for him more so. That like there was a person who genuinely cared for Arthur Fleck, the human being, and like was never mean to him and appreciated that he was never treated him poorly either, and that should have been like the enlightening like eye-opening moment that started to turn him away from being the Joker. Like I think that would have made more sense to me from a storytelling perspective as the thing that pivoted him towards taking responsibilities for his actions, as opposed to the violent action that happens to him being the thing that spurs that on.
The only reason I can think of them from like pulling back from him becoming the Joker at the end of this movie is because they really thought they had something and were panning out for a third.
Then you wouldn't have gotten the ending that you got. And I don't know, do you guys want to get into the ending? Because I think that's from a lot of indications, that's why this movie's getting as many bad reviews from people as I think it is that people hate the ending.
When he gets stabbed?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't hate it. I don't really care about it, though.
Yeah.
I just don't like, it's just a very flat finish to the movie. You know, like I don't really understand. I guess I don't understand it. So are you left to assume that the guards set him up?
That's the way I took
I
it.
mean, yeah.
That's what I took it to, right? Like he got led down that hallway and then left unsupervised and had that happen to him. But like they already got their get back. They kicked the shit out of him and everything. Like why then did they feel like they needed to murder him?
I don't think they were done.
Yeah, I don't know. It just felt like a flat finish to me, in a way. And then I had mentioned in the beginning of the pod, like there is a person who gets the smile because at the end, the guy who stabs him carves a smile into his own face.
Yeah,
it's basically just stating that the Joker lives on now in somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
I think I hate that even more though.
Yeah, like I don't get it. You know, like that it just doesn't work. As far as like one more thing I liked the courtroom explosion. I don't think I was really expecting it at that moment. Like the whole time you're waiting, like, how are they going to get out of this? You know? And I liked the courtroom explosion part. It felt more like some of that scene felt more like a traditional Batman, like Joker movie. Like I think you could envision like the Heath Ledger Joker, the way he was like running out of the courtroom, like disoriented and like through the streets and everything, like felt a little bit more traditional in that manner. I also read where Harvey Dent, like the idea is that he gets his scars to become Two-Face from that explosion rather than like a vat of acid or anything. And that's kind of what they were hinting towards there. What did you guys think of Harvey Dent?
Didn't care.
Yeah, he was just kind of a vanilla background character.
Yeah, like not enough of him, right? Like he should have. The problem with him is there should have been a better thing from him in the courtroom as far as like his prosecution, and I think some stronger performances from that character in the prosecution would have really landed home, but I don't think you ever got that from him.
I feel like they almost just wasted the Harvey Dent name. Like they could have just used any other prosecutor and it would have been the same thing.
Yeah, because it was too much of a background player, right? Like he should have been really on the forefront of voicing his issues against the Joker and really fighting against getting him in, like, you know, the death penalty that they were aiming for. And instead he just felt like another litigator, right? Like he just felt like another lawyer that was in the court. It wasn't a real standout. The other thing is like, how about the scene on the steps? Like, you know, they had to bring those steps back for this movie, right? Like they were such a phenomenon. Just it's crazy that like a set piece became such a phenomenon after the first movie, with people like traveling just to go take pictures at those steps. So I thought it was cool that you got those steps. I also found myself thinking about John Wick 4 a little bit. In that, like, imagine if he just kept getting knocked down those and had to keep climbing them because there were so many of them. I do think that it's like the one time they succeed in like getting you to feel like justifiably bad for Arthur Fleck's character, like, and it's not in a violent way. It's just like his heart being broken by Harley. You know, I thought that they executed well on that. And I think it makes her like the true villain in this whole thing, which is interesting.
See, like that's where like the whole movie just goes through the prison scenes and the courtroom scenes, and then finally blows up. Boom, he's out. I was so excited for something to happen, like, cool, let's
Especially when he
organize,
was
let's
whipping around the
riot,
car with those
let's
dudes, and I was like, all right, cool, we got to get some gang shit. Like he's with his crew now. He's out in the streets as Joker.
yeah. But then we just get another version of just Arthur Fleck, a sad sack, just
Well, because
walking
he
up.
had already converted. He wasn't the Joker anymore when that happened. You know, I think that you would have gotten the payoff
But
that you
even,
wanted to
like-
get if he had have been still in the Joker character. But that happens after he's already said, "I'm not the Joker."
But yeah, no, I get that. But even like after he's on the stairs with her, like I expected like him realizing that she left because he denounced the Joker, that maybe he would bring the Joker back. I was still holding out for that.
That would have pissed me off more. Like if he's just waffling back and forth, like, "Oh, like you want me to be the Joker, then I'll be the Joker." Like it's like, shut the fuck up, dude. Like,
Yeah.
just go die in a cell somewhere or whatever the fuck you're gonna do. You know.
I don't know, maybe like her telling him off, like, oh, you want the Joker, like, fucking, you know what, fuck you, and just backhands her, and then she falls down the stairs, and then he becomes a true villain or something like that. Like, all right, nobody can love me, all right, cool, let's go.
Yeah, well, and I think that would have gotten you back to more the traditional roles that these characters play, right? If he had have turned more malicious in that moment and made her more the, you know, the sub to him, you know, at that point, that he's now taking control of that relationship, and that unlocks like the Joker, and that makes her fall back in love with him because he's asserting like that dominance on her, you know, to a point.
But I think they just wanted to keep the whole lens of like her being manipulative to keep power over him.
Yeah, I think generally I like when movies don't like I like movies that have finality to them. So I think I generally would appreciate the idea that like Todd Phillips very clearly wrote this movie without the intention of a third and left you no interpretation that there would be a third. But I think because the ending falls so flat in the way that it finishes, like it should have finished with him getting killed in like a hail of gunfire or, you know, something more grandiose for the character, as opposed to just ending in a simple stabbing in a empty hallway in a prison, you know? And I think that that's where the issue with the finality of this movie comes from, is that I didn't need like these setups for a third or anything, you know, or the possibility that the character was still alive. But I think that you could have killed him in a way that felt more grand to what the character was, especially for the fame that the character had acquired throughout the two movies, you know, in the eyes of the public in these films.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of the issues for me lie. Is there anything else you guys had as takeaways from this?
No, I am
Tapped.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go star reviews rankings real quick.
Yeah.
So we had mentioned, or Dave, you had mentioned Megalopolis before having a higher cinema score. I'm interested from you guys, where is this ranked as opposed to Megalopolis in your year-end rankings?
It's still ahead of it.
Well, yeah, I gave it 2 stars. It's at number 20 on the year for me.
Oh, Dave's putting stars in the game now. Okay.
Yeah, I went through and kind of like cleaned it up a little bit, but yeah, Megalopolis still is sitting at half a star. My worst movie of the year at 25. So
Dante?
I gave it 2.5 stars.
Wow.
I know, right? For all the like shit we have to say about it, I still think there's a lot of like good things to pull from this movie, and I don't ultimately think it was the worst movie ever. I just don't think it told me the story I wanted to get out of it, and that's pretty much what I've been saying from the beginning of this. And I put it in at 53.
Guys, I am ever the contrarian on this. I gave it 1.5 stars. I have it as the lowest rating of the three of us, and I rated it behind Megalopolis. I have it at 73rd. I have Megalopolis at 69.
Damn. 69.
Dude, I just can't ignore the fact that I smiled through so much of Megalopolis, and I know that it is just a god-awful movie, but like it made me happy, and I can't disregard that. And this movie did not make me happy. This
Okay.
movie just like went and went and went. It just fucking felt like I have a note in my phone that's like, I'm just waiting for something to happen. Like this whole movie was just me waiting for something to fucking happen. And then when it finally does happen with the courtroom explosion, there's no real payoff to any of that. So I just thought this movie was so incredibly dull. It didn't make me feel anything pretty much through the entire thing. I was shocked that more people didn't walk out of like that. I don't think I had anybody. I had one couple leave with like 5 or 10 minutes left. But I was shocked people didn't leave. Like I was in a pretty full theater and I thought people would walk out at some points and like nobody did. I wanted to walk out at points. So yeah, I think I enjoyed my time watching Megalopolis better. I'm not saying maybe critically speaking that the Joker 2 isn't a better movie. Like there's certainly better performances in it, but just from an enjoyment of watching it as a cinema goer, I thought that Megalopolis it brought me more joy. So
I don't disagree with your take. Your take is not my take, but
yeah,
I can see it.
I just want to be known. I'm not doing that just to like be myself where I'm like everybody else is gonna go like is gonna zig, so I'm gonna zag. Like that's not my intention. But yeah, just how I felt, you know. Cool. Well, let us know what you guys thought of this movie out there, please. We'd like to hear from you. Are you in line with the cinema score? Was this the best movie ever for you? I can't imagine it would be, but if it was, I'd love to hear why. Harley Quinn, Lady Gaga, Joaquin Phoenix, like how do we feel about the character portrayals? Yeah, drop all that stuff down in the comments below. Also make sure to hit the like button, the subscribe button, and tell a friend, ask a friend. We'd appreciate that very much. Until next time, though, we are out. Folie, deuces.
For the last time ever.
No. That term is mine now.
For those with good taste.